I started boycotting the day that he came out with that.
And he's also threatening new tariffs. He posted on social media a short time ago, "We will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the U.S."
Canada's been a very difficult country to deal with over the years.
Over $4.8 billion in cross-border spending gone. No headlines, no diplomatic fallout, just a silent disappearance. In the span of 6 months, Canadian shoppers have quietly pulled nearly $5 billion out of the U.S. economy. Cities like Buffalo, Bellingham, and Plattsburgh, once bustling with Ontario license plates and packed outlet malls, are now seeing empty parking lots and shuttered storefronts. It didn't happen because of a trade war. No new law was passed. No tariffs were raised. People just stopped coming. From fast food chains and souvenir shops to big box giants like Walmart and Costco border towns that once thrived on weekend shopping trips are bleeding revenue without even realizing it. The shift wasn't loud. It was casual, a series of individual choices, one skipped trip at a time. By the time local officials began asking where the crowds had gone, the money was already spent elsewhere at Canadian stores and Canadian apps and with Canadian companies. No one declared a boycott. But what we're seeing is exactly that, a consumer rebellion wrapped in silence. And it's costing the U.S. economy billions. This isn't just about shopping habits. It's about trust, pride, and perception. And the quiet exodus of Canadian buyers may be just the beginning. What began as a quiet retreat has now turned into a measurable economic collapse, one that local officials never saw coming. Between January and March 2025, Erie County, New York reported over 35,000 fewer Canadian vehicles crossing the border. No major announcement, no public backlash, just tens of thousands of people who used to come and now don't. And the fallout, it's everywhere. Retail tax revenue has dropped by over $5 million in key border districts, a sharp decline that's already forcing some towns to revise their fiscal year budgets. Community programs, small business grants, even maintenance services, all are on the chopping block because consumers from Ontario and Quebec decided to stay home. In warehouse stores like Costco and Sam's Club near the border, the impact is even more direct. Internal reports show a 12% drop in sales compared to the same quarter last year. Inventory is piling up. Fewer pallets are moving. Weekend traffic, once dominated by Canadian license plates, has thinned out to the point where managers are cutting staff hours and delaying restocks. The shift isn't just economic, it's psychological. Canadians no longer see the U.S. as the guaranteed better deal. The currency gap, gas prices, and rising uncertainty at customs have flipped the cost-benefit equation. What was once an exciting weekend tradition, a cross-border trip to stock up, grab lunch, and maybe splurge on a pair of shoes, now feels like a hassle. That's not worth it. No one protested. No one posted a viral boycott hashtag. But what we're watching unfold is a consumer realignment with billion-dollar consequences. And for the U.S. towns that once thrived on those quiet cross-border flows, the silence now speaks volumes. Nowhere is the Canadian exodus more visible than in the parking lots of Walmart stores in Buffalo, Blaine, and Detroit, once overflowing with Ontario and Quebec license plates every weekend. In 2025, those same lots sit half empty. According to internal foot traffic estimates, weekend visits by Canadians have dropped by 30% to 70% depending on location. And the reason isn't just price, it's parity. Thanks to price adjustments and tighter supply chains, Walmart Canada now helps the average household save over $400 CAD per year. The once significant price advantage of crossing the border has all but disappeared. Walmart managers along the U.S. border have been forced to shift from monthly to weekly inventory adjustments just to avoid overstock. Seasonal hires gone. Many stores have quietly cut hours at grocery counters and canceled weekend staff rotations. The ripple effect touches everyone from part-time student workers to regional food distributors.
Now, we have a government incompetence problem. We're going to bring companies back through a system of tariffs, taxes, and protection of the companies that come in so that they can't be pillaged. We're going to bring thousands of companies back. We allowed them to be stolen from us. They went to Mexico, they went to China.
For decades, a quick cross-border drive for burgers and fries was almost a tradition for Canadian families. But in 2025, that routine has vanished, and with it hundreds of millions in fast food revenue. McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King locations near the U.S.-Canada border lost an estimated $350 million in Q1 revenue from Canadian customers alone. If the trend holds, the loss could exceed $1.4 billion by year's end. Why the sudden shift? It's not just inflation or toll fees, it's a generational pivot. Younger parents are turning away from fast food opting instead for local brands like Mary Brown's Freshie Eye or Poke Bowl cafes that offer lighter, healthier options with kid-friendly menus. And critically, they're doing it at home without customs delays, gas expenses, or currency conversions. This isn't just a pricing issue, it's about how people feel after they eat. It's about trust, freshness, and transparency. And most importantly, it's about habit. Once families stop driving across the border for lunch, they don't just skip a meal, they skip the entire trip. And the $25 burger combo isn't the only thing that disappears. So does the gasoline sale, the quick pharmacy visit, and the impulse retail splurge next door. That's how a Big Mac loss becomes a border economy collapse. Quiet, layered, permanent.
Would you pay $18 for this burger? A McDonald's franchise in Connecticut is charging $18 for a Big Mac meal. To some, this is just another sign of food inflation running amok in America. To me, this is about more than just the price.
In cities like Niagara Falls, Buffalo, and Plattsburgh, souvenir shops once thrived on a simple idea that bringing home a mug, a magnet, or a t-shirt with I Hearts NY meant something. For generations of Canadians, these trinkets weren't just cheap gifts. They were proof of the weekend escape, a small token of cross-border adventure. But in 2025, that ritual is fading fast. Local tourism boards now estimate that souvenir and memory-based retail has lost between $280 and $350 million in revenue compared to 2023. And unlike big box stores, these small businesses have no corporate cushion. Family-owned shops are closing quietly one by one. No news stories, no bailouts, just dark windows and clearance signs on streets that once bustled with French-speaking tourists and laughing kids. Now Canadians are buying handcrafted maple products, local artwork, and small batch wines instead of generic USA hoodies. The items still serve as memories, they just don't need to cross the border to be meaningful. It wasn't long ago that Canadian tech shoppers lined up outside Apple stores in Buffalo and Burlington every fall. A new iPhone release meant crossing the border, testing the product firsthand, grabbing accessories and bringing home the latest gadget often before it hit shelves in Toronto. But that era is over. Since the US imposed a 25% electronics tariff in April 2025, the math has flipped. Devices like the iPhone 15 Pro, once marginally cheaper in the US, now cost more, especially after state sales taxes, import fees, and fluctuating currency exchange rates are added. The result: showrooms are quiet. Demo stations stay untouched. Staff outnumber customers. Meanwhile, Canadians are turning to Best Buy, Canada Staples, and Amazon.ca, where same-day delivery and fully integrated warranty support make the cross-border trip obsolete. Even more surprising, the traffic is now reversing. Americans looking to avoid tariffs are exploring purchases from Ontario using Canadian shipping addresses or planning tech trips to the north. Reddit threads and Discord channels offer guides on how to buy Apple devices from Canada and bring them back legally. The prestige of getting it first in the US has faded, because in 2025, early access no longer beats peace of mind. And the glow of an Apple store. It's not worth a 4-hour wait at customs. What used to be a tech pilgrimage is now just another border casualty. For decades, border town pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens quietly relied on a steady stream of older Canadian shoppers crossing into the US for affordable prescriptions. No flashy ads, no tourist campaigns, just the unspoken ritual of picking up vitamin bottles, over-the-counter meds, and eye drops cheaper, familiar, and trusted. But in 2025, that flow has slowed to a near stop. The numbers explain it all. Prescription drug prices in Canada rose just 1.2%, while similar products in the US saw spikes of 8 to 10%, driven by inflation, supply chain volatility, and insurance disruptions. For elderly Canadians already managing fixed incomes and rising living costs, that margin is no longer worth the gas tolls or customs paperwork. More importantly, they now have better options at home. Cross-border shopping once had a certain charm, especially when it came to fashion. A trip to Buffalo or Plattsburgh wasn't just about getting a new bag or jacket. It was about the experience walking into a Saks Off Fifth or a Coach outlet, being greeted with polished service, and bringing home a little piece of luxury American style. But in 2025, something deeper is shifting. CBRE reports a 6.7% drop in Q1 revenue for fashion outlets near the Canadian border. Stores that once catered to eager weekend visitors are seeing fewer footsteps, smaller receipts, and reduced floor space. The downturn isn't just about price tags, it's about identity. While US stores fade, Canada's domestic luxury sector is rising. Brands like Holt Renfrew, Aritzia Judith & Charles, and Horses Atelier are not only gaining market share, they're redefining what sophistication looks like for Canadian shoppers. The data backs it up. The Canadian luxury fashion market grew 2% in early 2025, with projections suggesting it could exceed $6.24 billion USD by 2029. But beyond growth is something more telling: pride. Today's buyers aren't crossing the border for a deal, they're staying home for the experience. Private fitting lounges, personalized consultations, quality service in familiar cities, and more importantly, a sense of being seen. Beneath the spreadsheets and sales figures lies something deeper, a cultural shift that's hard to quantify but impossible to ignore. According to Dunhumb's June 2025 survey, 71% of Canadians say they plan to reduce purchases from the US this year. But the more telling number, 25%, say this isn't just temporary, it's a permanent lifestyle change. This isn't a boycott. There are no slogans, no hashtags, no campaigns. It's not political, it's personal. They didn't walk away in protest. They walked away in silence and took $5 billion with them. America's northern border towns weren't defeated by competitors. They were abandoned by habit, one quiet decision at a time. Are we witnessing the end of the border economy? Comment below. Have you changed your shopping habits in 2025? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. More stories like this are coming.